The reason your electric bill keeps climbing isn't the weather. It isn't inflation. It isn't Putin, or OPEC, or your neighbor's pool pump. It's something almost nobody's talking about at the dinner table, and it's already added billions of dollars to what Americans pay every single month. Because if you've been wondering why your power bill went up 20% since 2023, even though you haven't changed a single habit, the answer isn't in your house. It's in a warehouse the size of 6 football fields, roughly 40 miles from where you live, full of machines that don't sleep, don't blink, and don't turn off. And here's the uncomfortable part. You are already paying for it. You just don't know it yet. To understand what's happening, you have to rewind to about November 2022. That's when ChatGPT launched. That's when every company on Earth simultaneously decided that if they didn't have an AI strategy in 90 days, they were going to be roadkill. And to have an AI strategy, you need one thing more than anything else. Not engineers. Not data. Not even chips. Electricity. Enormous, uninterrupted, industrial-scale electricity. And the American power grid, a system that was designed in the 1960s to handle refrigerators and air conditioners, was not ready for what came next. So here's what a modern AI data center actually is. Picture a windowless building. Inside it are tens of thousands of specialized chips called GPUs. Each one runs hot enough to fry an egg on. Together, one facility can pull between 100 and 500 megawatts of continuous power, enough to run a mid-sized American city, 24 hours a day, forever. Now meet the utility company. The utility's job is to make sure electricity is there when you flip a switch. To do that, they run something called a capacity auction, where power plants basically bid for the right to promise electricity 3 years from now. For 20 years, that auction was boring. Prices were stable. Nobody paid attention. Then AI showed up. In the PJM grid, which covers 67 million Americans from Virginia to Chicago, the capacity price went from $28.92 per megawatt day in 2024 to $329.17 in 2026. That's not a typo. It's more than an 11-fold increase in 2 years. And every dollar of that increase eventually shows up on your bill. Since 2024, PJM's own auction results have added roughly $29 billion in extra costs to ratepayers across 13 states. And the Market Monitor, the independent watchdog that grades PJM's auctions, said 63% of the price spike was directly caused by one class of customer. Guess which one? Let me give you a face. John Steinbach lives in Manassas, Virginia. He opened his January 2026 electric bill and it said $281. The month before, he'd paid about $100. He didn't buy a hot tub. He didn't move. His house didn't grow. What did grow was Data Center Alley, the largest cluster of AI data centers on the planet, sitting a few miles from his subdivision. In areas with heavy data center concentration, residential electricity prices are up 267% over the last 5 years. Zoom out. Ohio bills, up 22% from February 2025 to February 2026. DC Pepco customers, an extra $21 a month since June 2025, roughly half of that traceable directly to the capacity auction spike. Virginia's Dominion Energy, base rate up $16 a month for the average household starting January 2026, bringing the typical bill to about $165. Nationally, residential electricity prices rose 7.1% in 2025 alone, more than double the inflation rate. Here's the way one Pennsylvania consumer advocate described it in the New York Times last week. Demand growth is not going away. The bottom line is, high prices are going to remain in place. Think about that. The grid isn't being upgraded fast enough. The data centers aren't stopping. And the math on your bill only points one direction. Now here's the part that nobody wants to say out loud. The 4 companies driving most of this, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and Meta, are set to spend a combined $725 billion on capital expenditure in 2026 alone. That's a 77% jump from the year before, and most of it is going into AI infrastructure. These are among the most profitable companies in human history. So why is the guy in Manassas paying an extra $180 a month? The answer is boring, technical, and infuriating. For decades, when a utility built new transmission lines, new substations, new power plants, the cost was spread across all customers on that grid. That system was designed for a world where everyone consumed roughly proportional amounts of power. A neighborhood needed a substation, everyone in the neighborhood chipped in. That model doesn't work when a single customer, a hyperscale data center, shows up asking for as much electricity as a mid-sized city. But nobody updated the rules. So when Dominion Energy has to build new transmission for Amazon Web Services, or when PJM has to procure more capacity for Meta, the invoice gets divided across every ratepayer in the region. Grandma in Roanoke helps pay for Meta's inference cluster in Loudoun County. And Virginia and Texas each give data centers about $1 billion per year in tax exemptions on top of that. Meanwhile, the water bill. A single large data center can use up to 5 million gallons of water a day, equivalent to more than 16,000 U.S. households. In the Phoenix area, once all planned data centers come online, projected water use will grow from 385 million gallons a year to 3.7 billion. That's a 10x jump, in a desert. Now, the tech companies have a defense. And on the surface, it sounds reasonable. They say, a single ChatGPT query uses about 0.34 watt-hours. That's the same as running an oven for 1 second. Sam Altman published exactly that number. Google independently confirmed their Gemini queries use around 0.24 watt-hours. Tiny. Right. Here's the trick. That number counts one query. It doesn't count the training run that produced the model, which for GPT-4 class systems runs into the tens of gigawatt-hours. It doesn't count the 2.5 billion daily queries at ChatGPT scale, which works out to about 850 megawatt-hours per day. And it doesn't count the third thing, the thing that actually costs you money. Capacity. Your utility isn't billed for the electricity a data center uses. It's billed for what it might use, at peak. And AI workloads run at nearly 100% utilization, 24/7. So the utility has to build the grid to that ceiling, whether the query happens or not. You're not paying for the AI you didn't use. You're paying for the AI that might get used. So this is the main point of the video. The AI boom isn't happening in the cloud. It's happening on a grid that you subsidize, in a state that gave the tech company a tax break, powered by a natural gas plant that Meta, Microsoft, and Google are now quietly building in your backyard, because renewables can't scale fast enough to feed the machines. Constellation Energy is restarting 3 Mile Island, a nuclear plant that's been closed for years, specifically to sell every watt of its output to Microsoft in a $1.6 billion deal. And every one of those investments, every substation, every transformer, every peaker plant, eventually gets amortized through rate cases at the State Utility Commission, and lands on the residential line item labeled delivery charge. You didn't sign up to fund the AI arms race. But your utility bill did. That's why regulators are finally starting to react. Virginia just created a new class of customer, the GS5 rate class, that forces data centers over 25 megawatts to sign 14-year contracts and pay for 85% of transmission costs regardless of how much they actually use. New York just imposed a statewide 1-year moratorium on new data center construction. It's a start. But it's 5 years late. And there's a reason most business media isn't running this story on the front page. The stock market wants you to hear about AI as a $10 trillion productivity revolution. The utility companies want you to hear about grid modernization, a nice, sanitized phrase. And the tech companies want you to think each query is basically free. None of them want you to do the simple math: $29 billion in extra costs, 13 states, 1 industry. Here's what I want you to do with this. Next time you get your electric bill, look at the delivery or capacity line. That's where this is showing up first. If you live in Virginia, Ohio, Maryland, D.C., Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or any PJM state, you are already funding the AI boom whether you use ChatGPT or not. If you want more videos that follow the money instead of the hype, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. I cover the stories that don't get told, because they aren't clickable, until they land on your doorstep. And this one already has.